So, as a toy fan, Star Wars action figures have kind of been my bread and butter my whole life. I collected them when I was a kid, I'm collecting them today. Sometimes the exact same figure in the exact same style. But yes, the modern line is really what I love to get because, well, the old line represents my childhood and the new line kind of represents my hobby. I buy toys just like you do, but I've also worked in the toy industry. And one of the things being in the toy industry that has been my biggest pet peeve is getting lied to. Well, not just the toy industry, any industry. And the time I've spent in the toy industry, the company that I think has misled me the most has been Lucasfilm. And I've worked for, well, not for Lucasfilm, but they've been a licensor. I've worked on Star Wars product, I've worked on Indiana Jones product, I've worked on Disney straight up product. And during different tenures I've had, I gotten to go up to Lucasfilm and tour their facility, which, of course, as a fanboy, was like going to the coolest museum ever and getting to see, actual movie props just casually in the hallway. I mean, you walk into the lobby and there's an actual Darth Vader costume, or, you're going down the hall and you find out that the Holy Grail really is in a museum, or sort of. Okay, so yes, I had a lot of fun snapping pictures all over Lucasfilm. But I think one of my favorite parts was actually seeing their conference room, which was just full of toys. So, didn't want to leave that room. So, yeah, I'm very happy being there. It was to talk about Rogue One and how we were going to launch a new product line to support this film. Okay, the issue is, obviously, Darth Vader being in Rogue One, I wanted to know which Darth Vader we should sculpt a figure of, because we wanted it to be accurate to the film. Now, during the presentation, Lucasfilm rolled out all of this original kind of bedding and fabric and textile imagery that they wanted to make available for Rogue One, and most of it featured Darth Vader in full costume. These are not the actual images because the actual fabric was never produced. The reason, I think, is because I asked in front of like 400 people what version of Darth Vader would be in the movie. The version from Empire Strikes Back or the version from A New Hope? How should his armor be done? Because they're two different outfits. And the representatives had no idea that he had two different outfits. All right, so why am I telling this story? Well, one, from a logistical standpoint, I wanted to know if we could just re-release our existing Darth Vader tool, or if we had to tool up a new version for Rogue One. But this kind of, I wanted to demonstrate that the people who work for, things, the studios don't always know the most about their properties. And there's a big difference between not knowing about your property, like that Darth Vader has multiple outfits, and outright lying. So I wanted to kind of set that up as a precursor. As far as lying, you remember Spaceballs, right? The other Star Wars movie that's not a Star Wars movie. And obviously there's never been action figures based on this. I've done whole videos about this. It's basically because Mel Brooks and George Lucas had a handshake deal that Mel Brooks would never make toys of Spaceballs to not confuse customers that they might be Star Wars toys. Well, when MGM and, well, rather when Disney purchased Lucasfilm, MGM still owned Spaceballs. So that handshake deal did not come with the purchase, which meant that Spaceballs was available. And as a professional courtesy, when I was working on this Spaceballs line, we called Lucasfilm just to say, hey, just a heads up that we're going to be doing Spaceballs toys licensed from MGM. And immediately Lucasfilm called back and said, you can't do that. We own the rights to Spaceballs. Now, we'd done our homework, and we politely said, okay, well, from what we can see from the contract, you don't. Can you show us the contract that says you own it? And they're like, no, we can't, but just trust us. We own the rights to Spaceballs, and you can't make toys. Okay, we did our homework. We talked to MGM. We knew this was a bold-faced lie, and I don't like being lied to right to my face, especially in a business setting. And why am I, kind of giving all of this as background, of pointing out Lucasfilm not being aware of characters or blatantly lying about them? Well, because we have a whole issue with Slave Leia going on. Now, we never had a Slave Leia as a kid, despite her being the major part of Jedi, and we've already seen images of her being replaced in Star Wars posters and imagery after the Disney purchase. Now, a few months ago, and thanks to a great site like Jedi Temple Archives that has Star Wars news, Hasbro and Lucasfilm said officially, no, Slave Leia is not off the table. You can absolutely make merchandise and action figures based on her. This is just a rumor that she has been, I guess, held back. Prove it. That's what I say. Okay, well, where's the Slave Leia merchandise then? If you're still allowed to make Slave Leia merchandise, Now, this is a character who's a big part of pop culture, way beyond just the films. And what she represents to Star Wars fans and what she represents to the public at large might be a little different. And there's obviously been a lot of Slave Leia action figures, and some of them sexier than others, and some of them called Princess Leia, and some of them called Jabba's, prisoner, Jabba's palace. There's been non-articulated statues, all sorts of stuff, T-shirts, beach blankets, etc. She's a very popular Star Wars character, and a version of a Star Wars character that sells really well. Now, why do I, think we're being misled? Well, kind of the evidence is the way they renamed her as Hut Slayer Leia. I mean, come on. Hut Slayer Leia? Like, slaying is not a Star Wars word. And there's a million things you could have called her. You could have called her Jabba's Palace Leia. I mean, if you look back in the 80s, she was referred to as Pinup Leia, or as Jabba's dancing girl on the official Topps cards. So, yeah, there were tons of options other than calling her Hut Slayer. That was an empowerment name to make it sound like, no, she's not a slave, she's a slayer. Okay, then if it's beyond that, why are you removing her from Star Wars imagery? Not to mention that you're replacing her with a Hoth Leia. I mean, Disney has no problem with female characters, being in scantily clad outfits and being prisoners. So, yeah, if Slave Leia is not banned, then where are the toys? We haven't seen a single anything since Disney bought Star Wars. So if Slave Leia's not banned, prove it. Have you had any questions about seeing Slave Leia merchandise? Would you like to see more? Are you bummed that the figure, whether or not she's officially banned or just unofficially, we're still not getting any product? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Thanks for sharing. I'll see you in the next video.